Hi there, it's Matt here, and welcome back to another episode. Today, we're going to dive into the mysteries and the wonders of the dreaming brain. If you've been a listener to this podcast before, you'll know that we've journeyed through the fascinating mechanisms of how your brain conjures up these things called dreams, and we've even unraveled some of the origins of these nighttime narratives. But today, we're going to cover two distinct things. First, we're going to ask the question, do dreams themselves, above and beyond the stage of sleep that they principally come from, which is REM sleep, do dreams and the content of our dreams have any real purpose? Or are they just mental fireworks, meaning that they are beautiful, they are fleeting, but they don't really result in any meaningful change to the human being themselves? Wow, that was rather harsh on fireworks, perhaps. But anyway, that's the first thing we're going to discuss. Does the content of what you dream actually make a difference? The second is a fascinating new study. It's sort of the hot off the press, the latest and greatest that I try to keep you up to date with, which suggests that REM sleep, and perhaps again, the act of dreaming itself, can even help us eradicate unwanted memories. And this, in neuroscience, is something that we call memory extinction. And you can think of it almost, if you've seen that movie, I always blank on the name, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That idea that you've got these sort of painful or difficult memories that you really wish that you could just clear out and not have to recollect or remember because they are just so painful. And there was this sort of technology that they developed with a brain scanner, and they go in there and they zap these memories and they're gone forever, and brings up all of these wonderful ethical and psychological concerns. But this is what we're going to speak about today as a second topic of REM sleep and dreaming. Let's start with what we already know, which is that REM sleep serves a whole myriad of critical functions. And I should actually do an episode on all of the different, sort of like a fast blast. Here are the top 10 things that REM sleep does for you. Now, this is not dreaming. Dreaming sits above and atop of REM sleep. I'm just talking about what the basic functions of REM sleep are. And I'll do that. I'll promise maybe in the next episode or the next episode after that, I'll give you a fast blast. Many of us think of REM sleep for the brain because it's when we dream. And so it must be for the brain. And it is. And that's what we'll speak about today. However, REM sleep is, if anything, principally for your body. We think of deep non-REM sleep as the thing that gets the limelight for body restoration. But my goodness, you do not want to be without REM sleep when it comes to your body functions. But I'm getting us off track here. Let me come back. Are dreams just a byproduct of this thing called REM sleep? Or do dreams themselves, above and beyond the stage of sleep from which they come, which is principally REM sleep, do they have a function in and of themselves? Dreaming, the actual content of what you're dreaming, does that matter? So think about the analogy of a light bulb. The reason that we create a light bulb is to produce this thing called light. Well, it turns out that when you produce light in that specific engineered way, you often produce this thing called heat. Now, heat was never the function of the light bulb. It's just an epiphenomenon. It's just what happens when you create light in that way. And the same thing we used to think was true of dreaming. That the reason that the brain has this complex network that creates this thing called REM sleep is for all of the functions of REM sleep. But it turns out that when you produce REM sleep in that way, you also produce this spin-off, which is the heat of the REM sleep process, which is what we call dreaming. A long-standing partner of today's podcast is Element, spelled LMNT. Element is a sugar-free electrolyte mix. And for me, it was the sugar-free part of that that made me start using it quite some time ago. Beyond having the electrolytes in the right balance, the other reason I'm a fan of Element is that it's scientific. And if you look at the people who created the company, you'll find some pretty heavy-hitting physiology, biochemistry, and pharmacology knowledge that is baked into the product. And again, all of that comes without any sugar. I am a devotee of their product. I really do use them. I know people will say that on these ad reads. I use it every single day for my workout. I put it in my protein shakes afterwards. I do use it. Also, by the way, Element has just recently brought back the chocolate medley range, which you can have essentially your electrolytes hot. And in the trio of flavors, there is chocolate mint, chocolate chai, and also my favorite, chocolate raspberry. And by the way, I happily badgered them to agree to give you fine folks a free sample pack with any purchase of Element if you just use the link lmnt.com/Matt Walker. That's lmnt.com/Matt Walker. Dreaming is epiphenomenal. That was the old theory, that it had no benefit. It's just what happens when you create REM sleep in that way. Just like the light bulb. Heat is just what happens when you create light in that way. Light is the function of the light bulb. Heat, that's just a byproduct. It's useless. But is dreaming useless? Well, it turns out that we've discovered that dreaming is critical for at least two functions. The first is what we'll focus on today. The second I've actually discussed before, which is creativity, memory association, and integration. That's another benefit of dreaming. But today, we're going to speak about the first of those functions, dreams as emotional first aid. So think about it like this. As you drift off into REM sleep, your brain embarks on an incredible journey of emotional healing. And my team and I, together with lots of other great scientists around the world, have discovered that dreams themselves do more than just simply entertain. They are the brain's form of overnight therapy. And they work to just essentially, almost like a nocturnal soothing balm, that REM sleep takes the painful edges off difficult and traumatic memory experiences. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. It's not just that you dream during REM sleep that provides that form of emotional therapy or overnight first aid. It's that what you dream during the dreaming itself actually matters. So think of your brain as a skilled therapist, and it selectively brings up emotional wounds in your dreams. Not to re-traumatize you though, but to help you process and heal. That was the theory. And this process seems to occur nightly, and it's your brain's way of providing you with emotional resilience, making you essentially stronger and better equipped to face life challenges. And here I want to give just incredible credit to the groundbreaking work of the late Dr. Rosalind Cartwright. She was doing work starting in the 60s through until the 1990s, maybe even later, but she studied the dreams of people in the throes of depression following really difficult life experiences like a bitter divorce. And what she found was something astonishing. She discovered that only those who dreamed about the traumatic experiences themselves were the ones that 1 year later were able to overcome their depression because of that traumatic experience. However, those individuals who had similar traumas, but who were also sleeping and they were also dreaming, but they were not dreaming about the specific traumatic experiences that they had gone through, those people remained trapped in their emotional pain. In other words, they didn't go through final depression resolution. They remained depressed. And what this tells us is profound. Dreams are not just random firings of neurons. They are essential to our emotional healing. And it's not just the dreams themselves, but it's the content of the dreams. What we're dreaming, not just that we dream, seems to be important. So in other words, it's not time that heals all wounds. It's time during sleep, specifically in dream sleep, and dreaming of those emotional experiences that gifts us the emotional convalescence. As E. Joseph Kosman, an American entrepreneur, once beautifully put it, the best bridge between despair and hope is a good night's sleep. A partner of today's podcast is Shopify. Why Shopify? As someone who spends his days researching sleep and his nights researching sleep, the idea of selling merchandise was quite daunting. And you're probably thinking, what on earth is he going to be selling? We're going to start with some exciting t-shirts, all with the proceedings going directly to a new sleep education non-profit charity that I will announce later. At the moment that we started to do that, I knew what I wanted to design, but how on earth was I going to get this sleep merch into your fantastic hands? Everyone who gave me answers gave me the same answer, Shopify, and it turned out to be remarkably simple. Without any retail experience, I was able to set up and activate my store effortlessly. Shopify's point of sale system, it's really interesting. It basically just integrates perfectly with all of the different online sales components, and it just manages everything so smoothly. Honestly, it was great. Shopify POS, it handles all the complexities of sales, inventory, and it just lets me focus on my passion, which is sleep science. Try it out. You'll see what I mean about its intuitive platform. Oh, you should also note that Shopify isn't just for online businesses. I've heard, at least from one friend in particular, it really can help revolutionize in-person sales as well. It's one system that seems to integrate everything. If you would like an offer, here is the offer. Shopify have agreed to do a $1 per month trial. It's just $1 a month if you do shopify.com/Matt Walker. So again, shopify.com/Matt Walker. You'll get Shopify for $1 a month. That's nuts. I don't know why they're doing this for me, but it's great. Okay, let's get back to the show. If those findings weren't incredible enough, that sleep, and specifically our dreams themselves, provide this form of overnight therapy, almost as though the act of dreaming helps us divorce the emotion from the memory so that we come back the next day and we have a memory of an emotional event, but is no longer emotional itself, leads us to this new discovery that it is during REM sleep when we can actually extinguish or even remove painful or fearful memories. It was just very recently when some groundbreaking new research took our level of REM sleep, and particularly the potential active dreaming, to a whole new level. So for this, we need to go into the brain and a little bit of brain anatomy. Deep within this sumptuously wonderful structure of your brain lies a smaller yet incredible region called the infralimbic cortex. This unassuming part of your brain deep down has now been discovered to be a key player in how we overcome our fears and our traumas, especially the kind that haunts us after a traumatic event. And this recent study I wanted to share was published in a very prestigious journal called Current Biology. And it revealed that during REM sleep, this very unassuming part of your brain, the infralimbic cortex, lights up with incredible activity. So this brain region, it turns out, they discovered, was crucial for helping us forget or extinguish our fearful traumatic memories. And think of it as the brain's way of essentially hitting the reset button on those scary memories, those difficult traumatic memories, so that when you come back the next day, you can face the world without being held back by that past trauma. But here is where things get really interesting. The study found that if this part of the brain doesn't get its REM sleep dreaming workout, in other words, if you disrupt the activity of this part of the brain, or you disrupt the REM sleep, you're not able to shake off your fears. And in their experiments with mice, the researchers found that when they blocked this part of the brain and the activity of this part of the brain during REM sleep, after the animals had experienced something frightening, the mice struggled to overcome their fear later on. So think about it in the context of human terms. What this discovery suggests is that REM sleep, and perhaps the act of dreaming itself, especially after something has happened that is traumatic to us, is not just important, but it's vital. That there is a part of your brain that may be dedicated to encapsulating that fear and that trauma, and then wishing for REM sleep to come and do its work of bathing it in this nocturnal soothing balm. And that's why we can take the sharp edges off those traumatic, fearful memories. Okay, time for some honesty. I've probably eaten more protein bars in my lifetime than I've actually blinked. They've been such a constant for me throughout my life. I recently found David protein bars, and it was my friend Dr. Peter Attia who raised awareness about David. He played a key role in the development of this really quite radical new protein bar. And just hearing it from Peter, knowing his standards, that's all I needed to at least consider making the switch. And then I read about the company. They are fantastic. The bars are built on a simple, groundbreaking concept: the fewest calories for the most amount of protein, period, ever. And each bar contains a wonderful 28 grams of protein at just 150 calories. They have 0 grams of sugar as well. That is the best protein to calorie ratio that has ever been seen in a protein bar. The taste, exceptional. I almost have to ration them. They're that good, because I could probably inhale about 10 of them in one go. Protein, of course, by the way, it's critical. It's not just for building and maintaining muscles. It's for managing metabolic health, helping you feel fuller for longer. And it's that unique ratio that I think makes David protein bars, just for me at least, the most satiating that I've also ever experienced. They are fantastic. They've got 6 incredible flavors. And here's a bonus. When you buy 4 cartons, you get a 5th entirely free. If protein bars are your thing, even if they're not your thing and you're considering them, just go on over to davidprotein.com/Matt Walker. That's davidprotein.com/Matt Walker, and you will get a wonderful experience in terms of that bonus. Okay, back to the show. So what the researchers had discovered is not only once again that REM sleep is critical for our emotional health, but they discovered that it's critical for a process that we think of as the removal of aspects of our memory. Here, specifically, the extinguishing or the removal of our fear and our trauma around those fearful experiences. And not only had they discovered that it was REM sleep that was providing this benefit, this new form of overnight therapy by way of extinguishing the unwanted fear, but they'd even discovered the deep brain structure that was transacting it. And then all of a sudden, so much literature started to make sense to us, because we've known for some time that one of the diagnostic hallmark features of PTSD post-traumatic stress disorder is the fact that they have repetitive nightmares, almost as though these patients are replaying the memories at night, trying to do this extinguishing of the trauma. But for reasons that we're only now starting to understand, that seems to fail. And as a consequence, the next night the brain goes back, perhaps in this deep infralimbic structure, and it asks the sleeping brain, and particularly the REM sleep dreaming brain, to do its trick of divorcing the trauma painful emotion from the memory itself. And once again, it fails, almost like a broken record. And again, it's no surprise that when we've looked at patients with PTSD, they consistently have abnormalities in what stage of sleep? That's right, in REM sleep, in the dreaming stage itself. And in some studies by people like Marie Raskin and colleagues, when they have treated these patients with certain medications, things like prazosin, that helps stabilize their REM sleep, all of a sudden, aspects of their PTSD symptomatology start to resolve. Now, not all of the studies have been able to replicate that finding, but nevertheless, it reaffirms again when we put all of these pieces together from way back in the 1980s to the work from Rosalind Cartwright that I described in patients with depression, all the way to these new findings in mice, and finally moving that into the clinical domain as to why it's important and applicable in PTSD patients, we're starting to see that there is a new functional role of REM sleep dreaming. And it's not just that you dream or even that you just have REM sleep. It's what it is that you dream that can make all the difference and perhaps lead someone like E. Joseph Kosman to make that statement that sleep, and I would add dreaming itself and dreaming of the difficult experiences, is the best bridge between despair and hope. And with that, I will simply say good night. Thank you again for tuning in. I know people don't tune in, but nevertheless, thank you so much again for listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care, and bye for now.